For Mario Draghi, talk is cheap. Back in 2012, the European Central Bank president promised to do whatever it takes to rescue the euro. The currency survived. Now it's the Eurozone economy that's sinking. Growth stagnated in the second quarter, courtesy of a fall in output in economic powerhouse Germany. Last month, Draghi responded with another salvo of words. The Governing Council will acknowledge these developments and within its mandate will use all available instruments needed to ensure price stability over the medium term. Inflation in the Eurozone has fallen to an annual rate of 0.3%, dangerously close to deflation, and just a fraction of the central bank's target rate of just under 2%. There was more bad news on Monday. A key measure of economic strength, the August Purchasing Managers Index, showed the Eurozone economy at its weakest level in over a year. And economists believe the time for talking is over.
We're certainly getting to those stages where, the ECB and Mario Draghi's going to have to do something rather than just talk about it.
He'll get the chance this week. ECB policymakers will consider measures to stimulate the Eurozone economy on Thursday. But analysts hold out little hope of immediate action.
I think Draghi has never really done anything significant. He's a master of talking down the markets or expressing plans that may happen that buy him a bit more time.
But the European Central Bank may not have the luxury of time. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine has exacerbated the strain on the Eurozone economy, spooking investors.
I think the situation is worsening. Russia in open and direct involvement in and is at stage of war against Ukraine, and it is clear that means against country who wants to be closer to Europe. That means Russia is practically in the war against Europe.
Russia and the European Union have already embarked on a trade war, and the EU is expected to announce further sanctions this week, dampening vital markets for European exporters. Investors hope that the ECB will announce a program of quantitative easing, following the lead of central banks in the US and the UK. Whether on Thursday or in weeks to come, economists agree that Mario Draghi is going to have to offer more than words. Laurie Laird, Arise News.
Joined by Yannick Naud from Sturgeon Capital. We're sort of ratcheting this up or down, whichever way. Yes. Yeah, but it's something is getting closer, do you feel?
Well, for the ECB to do something. Yeah, I think they will need to do something probably this year. I don't expect the European Central Bank to do any meaningful rate cut or announcement on Thursday this week, but we're getting closer to the day where they will be able to do quantitative easing, not quantitative easing like in Japan or in UK or in States, probably through asset-backed securities, corporate bond, and probably smaller quantitative easing.
Because there is already a scheme in place, isn't there, for something rather similar to this in the EU. So this would be added to. What kind of money are we talking about? Is it possible to calculate?
Right now, nobody exactly knows. I mean, I think even the ECB itself is in the process of evaluating what they can do. Some analysts suggest that it could be up to 1 trillion euro, which is a large amount, but for the size of the Eurozone, it's not as big as what UK did or Japan did.
Okay. How do the powers that be in Europe distinguish between the intrinsic growth of Europe and the effects that the geopolitical thing, because they have to distinguish between the two, don't they?
First of all, we have to see that. I mean, what's happened between Ukraine and Russia and the ban and the sanction against Russia has an impact in Europe, both in terms of growth, in terms of business sentiment, of course, in terms of inflation. But all in all, within the Eurozone, we have contrasting figure country by country. For example, Greece had very good number today, as well as Austria was okay, Ireland as well, and Portugal recently had good GDP growth. Now the problem is not the peripheral country like it used to be. Now the problem is France, Italy, and for a certain extent Germany, because everybody was counting on Germany to be the growth engine for Europe, and it's not the case anymore.
Which is very serious, as you said. I mean, France lost an economy minister last week, didn't it? And Germany sort of continues to disappoint. I mean, but we look at these figures every day. It seems is Germany strong enough, do you think, to shoulder the load?
Yeah, Yes, I think so. I think that all in all, Germany are influencing every country in order to do a structural reform. And overall, we could be in a 1 year time or 2 year time having a Eurozone being exporting superpower because every economy restructure themselves and do a structural reform. So far, the country that did the least was France. And with the change of government, we should be able to be hopeful that they will do structural reform and fiscal consolidation.
And the rest of the world obviously looks at Europe as a big export market. Yes. Should they be worried or should they just continue as they are? Because demand must be slowing.
Well, there's almost no growth in Europe. All in all. So as a target for export is not the best target to be. I mean, the US is growing at 4.2%. China is probably not going to grow at 7.5%, but it will be between 7 and 7.5%. So those, I mean, emerging market and states must be the #1 target for export.
Okay, stay with us. We'll talk about the equity markets later in the program. Thanks for the moment, Yannick.